Money is one tiny sliver, it's one tiny version of abundance, but we have abundance of love, of joy, of freedom, of play, there's all of these ways that we can experience abundance, and if we think it's only about money, we miss the whole rest of the universe.
Determine our own careers, and so that kind of pressure has just always been with me of I have to be successful because that's what's also expected of me.
Is after the wrong things, and I realized that that money and all that isn't going to buy happiness. The happiness comes from here. So I was really unhappy, and that's where I felt the lack.
Literally, the next fucking day, a $2,500 credit card showed up in the mail for me that I didn't apply for. I'd never even filled out. Hey, let's just all have a big thanks for all of you for just coming to the event today. It's Hippie Snaps. Go ahead. Show your love and support. Whether you know it or not, you're all at minimum pseudo hippies in here. We're changing the planet. So I'm Jason Kearse. You're in the Creation Station, and this is Spiritual Expansion Soul Sauce. So thank you all for showing up today. It's these kinds of events that are helping to increase the global conscious awareness. So let's hear it for yourselves and the global conscious awareness one more time. Let's start off the event with going around the group, and we just mention your name and what country would you like to visit most?
Visit, not live in.
Thank you for the clarification.
Well, it's different.
What?
True.
What country would you rather be most dragged to?
I like that.
Okay, who will start us off?
Let's just go around.
So I guess by the
Shoot, okay, there you go.
Hey y'all, I'm Julie, and Greenland is on my bucket list for this year. Yeah.
Greenland. Okay, why Greenland? Okay, we'll do what country and why.
Yes, why?
Okay,
But don't be overly long-winded.
No, I won't. This is short. I've had the opportunity to see the Northern Lights, and I really want to get more immersive with the Northern Lights. So I've got to go colder and closer to the North Pole. So.
Love it. Okay, cool. Next.
This is for you.
This is the Aurora Borealis,
Uh-huh.
encapsulated in acrylic. How about back there? Who's here? What's your name, buddy?
I'm Brian. Hey, everybody.
Hi there.
I'd like to visit Italy.
Nice.
And why?
The food.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're a fan of the Italian. Next.
I was going to say Italy too. Shockingly. I wanted to go there forever. But if I had to pick something else,
Well, good thing you're significant others, because maybe you can go together.
we've been talking about it, so that was the first thing that came up.
Beautiful.
Oh, and I'm Ashley. Nice to meet you.
I'm Holly, and I'm going to say Japan. That's the first thing that popped into my head. I would like to see one of those awesome 3D billboards in person. Beautiful.
Oh, cool.
And I like anime, so and Japanese culture, so I'd like to see it.
All right. Well, thank you, Holly, for being here.
Okay, hey, I'm Henry, and I'd also like to visit Japan. I'd enjoy all the culture, awesome older architecture.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Henry.
So I am Dane. Think I'm going to throw in Egypt in there, just because of the history and the inimitable architecture and art and everything like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's my motherland.
Absolutely. That's why I was like, I gotta pay homage.
All right. Right back here.
Hi everyone, I'm Caroline, and I always wanted to go to Singapore ever since I was like a young girl. And I think just because every time I saw pictures or did any kind of research on it, it always looked beautiful and clean and luxurious.
Nice. I like it.
Very good show.
Back row.
I'm Chris. I would probably say India. But I don't want to go on like the 2-week trip you did because that's way too rushed. As a U.S. citizen, you can stay there 6 months without special permit. So I want to go and stay as long as I want to go.
Damn. You want to become a resident.
Because it's a very old civilization. It's the home of yoga.
Yeah.
And Goa is a real hippie town, I hear.
That's what I've heard.
Specifically
Wow.
Goa. Yeah.
Okay. All right, buddy. Thanks for being here.
I'm Kyle, and excited to go to Portugal to do the Camino de Santiago.
Sweet.
What is that?
Where you can, there's a lot of different paths where you can go from France or Portugal or other parts of Spain where you go to.
It's like a spiritual pilgrimage.
Yeah, pilgrimage. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You can do it from Lisbon, which is like 400 miles. But we're going to do it from Porto, which is about 160 miles.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's already booked.
Yeah. All that stuff is, most of it. Yeah.
Wow.
We're going in the last week of May.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You're making steps. All right.
I'm Jenny. I'm with him, and I want to go to India or Egypt. I forget which one. I want to do both, but I heard there's a mountain filled with crystals, and I want to go check that out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because Kara would want some.
That's why you want to go.
I actually do want to go find
so
crystals.
Yeah.
So you want to chisel off a crystal and make like a
There's
necklace out of it.
It's all over the place, and I'm pretty sure it's India, not Egypt.
She brings me back rocks sometimes.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm Morgan, and I want to go to Greece because it looks beautiful, and also the culture. Like, they seem really cool people, like, really loving people. Like, I like
Heck
that.
yeah. I like Greek food too.
Right?
Yeah. For sure. Thanks, Morgan. Over here.
Hey, I'm Kiara. I would like to go to Wales because that is where fairies live.
Hey. You want to get back to your people.
All right. Yeah, I'd love to commune with some fairies, man. That'd be sweet. Love it.
I'm Moni, and I've always wanted to go to Madrid. And I met a girl a year ago, and her family lives there. And now she's saying, I'll take you, and you meet my family. And so now I really have to go.
Love it.
Good choice.
Someone to show me everything. I don't have to go. Where do I drive?
Yeah, it's great when you have somebody just doing all the work for you.
Well, they already know. So.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, buddy?
I've always, my name's Satek. Always been to Bali. And I wish I could say it wasn't because of Eat, Pray, Love. But it is. I was just like, oh yeah, that feels familiar. Got to do that someday.
Is that a spiritual journey for you as well?
Yeah. There's there's an indigenous purity to it that I feel very attracted to.
Nice. Glad you're here too. I'm Jason.
I think Julia Roberts movies are a spiritual journey too.
Right on. Glad you approve.
I am Jason, and I would also like to go to Spain because I am a big fan of Gaudi architecture, and I want to visit many of the Gaudi neighborhoods and the that giant church that is still being worked on over there for like more than 150 years. And envelop myself in the Gaudi architectural spirituality. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and introduce Satek. He's going to tell us how this event works tonight and just what's going on. Like, what the hell are y'all here for?
I think that's the first time you ever didn't actually introduce spiritual expansion. So would you like to do that?
I'll do it from here. Thank you for joining us tonight at Spiritual Expansion New sign up there.
Yeah.
Props for that. And Spiritual Expansion has a variety of different formats. The format that we have here tonight is Soul Sauce, and we've also done Spiritual Book Club. And there can be also there can be a whole variety of other forms of expanding our spirituality. All right. Take it away, bro.
Welcome everyone to what we call Soul Sauce. And if you've never been here before, all Soul Sauce is an invitation to having deep and authentic conversations. And we like to do it one person at a time. We invite you up here to sit in what we call the share chair. And we invite you to put on a blindfold. And the reason for the blindfold is a few different things. After many years of holding space for shamanic ceremonies and as important the integrations that happen afterwards. So what I noticed is that when people share what they feel with their eyes closed, they tend to share a lot more. They tend to share deeper. And for those of you listening, we don't try to keep up with enough bandanas for everybody in the audience necessarily, but I encourage you all to keep your eyes closed as well, because you will listen deeper if you don't have the distraction of your eyes open. And the invitation is just simply to share with us as openly and as honestly as you can, and to understand it's frightening for everyone to speak in front of a group, but this is a safe group. This is a safe space. Everyone here is just here to support you. And you don't have to figure out how to be funny or deep or, like smart or whatever. You can just be yourself, and we will enjoy hearing whatever you have whatever you have to share. And on that note, we do have a couple of rules. When you're sharing, please just try to share from the most authentic place that you can. And when you're listening, please try to listen from the deepest place you can. We encourage what we call listening between the lines, like reading between the lines. There is a lot that a person is communicating in the space in between their words. There's body language. There's, what happens in silences. There is audible sounds.
Subtext.
Subtext. And so we encourage really listening for that. And what we like to do is start with a few questions just to get the wheels rolling. And we always have a theme. And tonight's theme is lack and abundance. Lack and abundance. I wanted to deal with both of them together. And so what we're going to do is, first half of tonight, we're going to focus on lack. And we really want you to dig down and share any stories that you can with us about lack from your life. And we'll ask you some questions. We'll guide you through the process. Don't be afraid. We'll be gentle. and so will the audience. This is not Fight Club, so everyone does not have to share. Just because you're here does not mean you have to get in the share chair. But I promise you that if you do, you will not regret it. Okay? And even though this whole idea has always been based on a podcast, a way to share depth and authenticity, like vulnerable conversations publicly. Don't be concerned about that. If you say something you don't want shared, let us know. We can cut out a part, or we can cut your entire part out completely. Do not be afraid of the media. We don't get any signatures from people, so that we don't have the rights to your stuff. If you don't want it used, then it won't be used. So let go of that fear, please. That being said, I will open with a brief share about lack and how to pick. My mother nor my father even had a bank account when I was growing up. They would go to the bank and cash their checks. And I didn't really understand why nobody else's parents did that. And my dad was a gambler, and he was really fucking bad at it. And he always lost, and he lost several girlfriends, companions, wives, whatever, because of it. And I watched him sit on the porch and lose $100 bill to an old black man that beat him every time they played while the refrigerator was empty. And this is, days after having tried the dog food, because the dog seemed to like it. It wasn't bad, actually. It was like granola. So I grew up with a lot of lack. My dad's side of the family was from the Bronx, the South Bronx.
You had an abundance of lack.
An abundance of lack. But I never really suffered because of it. I don't remember like feeling pity for myself because I'm eating dog food. Like, I'm just like, okay, this is interesting. I remember saving pickle juice because drinking the juice felt like food. I remember putting maple syrup on white bread and feeling like it was pancakes. So there was a lot of lack early in my life, but it didn't scar me. Like, I accepted it. I accepted lack in a way that I've only recently understood. That's kind of why it followed me, was because I accepted it. And when I realized that I accepted lack, I started to see all the ways I have said no to abundance in my life for a whole bunch of different reasons. But it was because I was so comfortable with lack, and I see abundance in a whole different light now. And I haven't felt lack in my life in many, many years. And I look forward to sharing some of the abundance I've experienced with you guys later. Thank you. I'm complete. Any thoughts, any questions?
Yeah. In a couple of words, how can you describe the feelings you had of lack at that time and how you perceive the difference and the abundance now at this time?
How did I perceive the lack then? Was kind of confusion. Just kind of confusion of like, I mean, my dad, traveled with the circus for 20 years and he lived in a camper for, 30, I think. And you just accept microwave dinners and fast food every day, you just accept it. This is normal. Even though part of you can feel like, I don't think this is how this is supposed to work. I'm not supposed to eat Jolly Rogers, hamburgers every night for dinner. I don't, but you accept it, and we all have those kinds of challenges. We all have those kinds of eccentricities about our lives and ourselves. And the challenge to me seems to be like, what meaning do we give to it? What, what story do we tell about it? Anybody else?
Well, also your perception of abundance now.
Oh, right. Thank you. Two-parter. Now I see very clearly that abundance is not a thing. You can't get any abundance from your wallet or from your bank account or from your job. Abundance isn't a thing. Abundance is a state of being. It's a state of being, and everything is born from abundance. Abundance is everywhere. And the more we appreciate the abundance that we have, the more abundance we experience. It's like a law of attraction thing. The more you appreciate what you have, the more you end up having. And then another thing is I see very clearly abundance is not about volume. It's not about hoarding. It's about having what you need when you need it. That's what abundance is about. And I just watched a client go through a course on abundance and eliminate all of these things from her life. It was like she didn't need more. You know what I'm saying? So that speaks to the last thing that I've learned about abundance is it has nothing to do with money. Money is one tiny sliver. It's one tiny version of abundance, but we have abundance of love, of joy, of freedom, of play, there's all of these ways that we can experience abundance. And if we think it's only about money, we miss the whole rest of the universe. Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay.
Who else has a question for Satek or a comment too?
My question would be, did you use any type of escapism throughout those troubling times of lack?
Great question. Yeah, my imagination, very heavily. My imagination, my interest in sports and hobbies, creativity, art. I used a lot of ways to escape from what on the surface could have looked like a pretty depressing, life. But I didn't experience like it as depressing because I was busy engaging in my imagination and my creativity. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Very good.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, what is your perception of where all the laughter comes from as you tell about the lack?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
That comes from the fact that I've always been a storyteller, and one of my first archetypes was the trickster, and I see irony in everything, and irony always makes me laugh. And so the irony I see in my own life makes me laugh. The irony I see in others' lives makes me laugh, and laughing makes me happy. Does that answer your question? No, awesome. Thank you.
Or do you have a follow-up?
I mean, the irony of, I guess I'm trying to understand, like, could you go just a tiny bit deeper? You're saying that you're laughing because of the irony of story that you're telling.
Mm-hmm.
What irony?
The irony of the pain of life, of not having what we believe we want or need. The irony is very thick for me. and every time I tell a story of pain from my life, I see the irony. I see the almost Hollywood-esque character arcs of loops of meaning and symbolism. And it almost always brings up humor in me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for the specificity.
Good
of the question.
I like how there was a little bit of like, what the hell is he talking about? and then having to just figure that out.
I actually wanted to get into that a little deeper also.
Hold up, bro. Yeah. Holly's got one.
Yeah. I just wanted to say I like how you pointed out that it's about the story that we tell ourselves about our experiences that determine how we experience those experiences. Mm-hmm. So I like that reminder.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How the meaning we give to our story determines how our story affects us.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. And the future story.
Mm-hmm.
And the future story.
Mm-hmm. Did you have something?
Somebody can have the same exact life experience as someone else, and one person have a positive perspective of it, and another person can have a negative perspective of the exact same experience.
Absolutely.
Somebody else had something? Oh, Dave.
Yeah, well, I just kind of a clarification because it's admirable that you have a appreciation of irony because life is full of them. The just as kind of a clarification because people often misuse the term irony they think it means coincidence or something like that, and it doesn't. It's always something that's in opposite to and in mockery of the intended result. That's the dictionary definition.
Thank you.
So do you see both in your life, irony according to that definition and coincidence?
Oh, I don't really think in terms of coincidence. I think in terms of serendipity.
Serendipity.
Right. And I see both of them all throughout my life. And irony, I think, is almost just like the polar reflection of serendipity. It's the opposite side of the same coin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that.
Awesome. Thank you.
I see the same in my own life too.
Amen. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So you mentioned your father in the story around lack. Where was your mother at this time, and what was going on in your relationship with her? And did she have a similar influence on your perspective of lack as a child?
My mother was there. She shipped me off to him during the summers because she needed a break. Who could blame her? She was there though, and I learned a lot about lack from her, but I learned a lot about love and joy and play and creativity from her as well. But she struggled to keep anything because she had this heart of a martyr, and she was always trying to help everybody, and so she would just give anything that she had away, and there was just never money for anything, no matter how many jobs she worked, and I had this anger towards my dad that I never knew until I watched the Mr. Holland's Opus by myself in a theater and cried like a baby. And I was like, oh shit, I think I have daddy issues. I was like, there's something going on here. Like, what is going on here? And I realized I was really angry at my dad for never being there. And so I finally talked to him about it directly. And I don't know how many people get the opportunity to talk to your absentee parent about it, like why and how you really feel about it. And because I did, I learned that he really wanted to be there. My mom wouldn't have him. He really wanted to be there. He wanted a family. And and none of the women would have him for very long. He was a very hard-headed motherfucker. But everybody loved him. He was a very likable dude, but not a very good companion, apparently. So I got two different perspectives on lack, and I never really understood my dad's morbid fascination with gambling, except that he lived through competition. And I think he just had a wet dream idea that one day he would hit, but he never did. Like, I never saw him win anything, but he just could not stop himself, But it runs in the family. The whole family's, gamblers and, number runners and, car thieves and stuff. Like, it was the South Bronx, it's just, this runs in the family. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Do you want to share on lack, or should we jump to them?
Let's go to the audience.
Let's jump to them.
Let's go to the community.
Normally, we just go around the circle so people don't have to choose to come up, but this is too many people. We won't be able to get through anyone. So you will get to select yourselves. So who wants to share something about lack with us first?
I can go.
Yes, ma'am. Please come on up.
Yeah, this is...
And we have a tray full of blindfolds.
Thank you.
Multiple colors.
You can choose any color you feel most attracted to. Thank you, Julie.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us. And just to begin, I would love for you to share anything with us that you can about your memory of lack.
Anything about my memory with lack. Yeah, I grew up pretty conflicted around lack and abundance, because everything was always provided for. My grandparents, both sides, and my dad were all such very committed, hardworking individuals. And I realized that my grandparents went through a reset of the financial system from the Great Depression, and my parents went through a pretty interesting reset, because that's when things started moving into credit cards. The creation of debt started in the 80s on a different kind of level. And so while there were always, the lights are on, there was food in the refrigerator, 2 cars, a home, clothes, there was always this sense of something's going to happen. It's not going to be here forever. We don't have enough. We need to just skimp. And so there was always this worry that it was all just going to disappear for no reason other than it was the state of consciousness that my family continued to perpetuate through the generations. So I feel that even now as we sit here, it's something that I've been working through as I'm in this space of watching one business that I have. It's coming to an end. It will end. And so I've been in a beautiful grieving space with this over the last year, as I'm also working to birth its new version, its new form, and that has not taken shape yet. And so what has really been coming up for me is how lack mentality is so intertwined with my fear of failure. But my fear of failure is so deeply intertwined with my fear of being alone. And it's not alone of like, I like being by myself. I really enjoy. I'm actually such an introvert. And yet there is this fear of failure that, oh my God, I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to be on a park bench in San Diego. I'm not going to New York. But it's like I'll be on a park bench and I will have no one. I will die no one will even know me when I die. And it's amazing how my thoughts can go there. And to this day, I'm still working through that. It's a hard, very uncomfortable place to be. So that's my memory around lack growing up, that it was a state of consciousness. It was a dinner table conversation. It was intertwined into everything, whether it was, needing to get clothes because my feet had outgrown my shoes or my pants were too short. Like there was always the conversations were always around, we don't have enough. We don't want to spend any money because it's going to leave us. And so, that fear that it's not going to be here one day, has become so wrapped into, then, well, if the money is gone, if there's no money, if there's no way to take care of myself, then that results into like the deepest space of the loneliest life ever. So if the money goes, like everything goes. It's a really icky, uncomfortable.
Can you tell us, like, if you imagine losing everything, like what it is that you're actually afraid of?
Yeah, I mean, if I lose everything, it is it's bigger than the inability of taking care of myself, right? Like it's that if I lose everything, people will turn their back on me. Like, like there won't be any way for me to take care of myself, and then nobody will be there to take care of me, and I'm going to die alone. And it's a very real fear that just came up because at the early part of February, I got really sick, and I had not been sick since before COVID. And at that time, my daughter was at home. I was in a relationship. So while I was sick, I had eyeballs on me. I had somebody that could make me a cup of tea or, just help to just be there with me while I was sick. And this time I had no one, right? Like my daughter is grown up and she's, graduated from college and I'm not in that relationship anymore. I'm not in a relationship right now. And so being at home and isolated and by myself, and it was just like, the loneliness that settled in, and then how that loneliness was also so intertwined with what I'm in the process of creating and the fear of that not happening. And yeah, does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You have one, Jay?
You mentioned a very specific set of imagery, and that is living on a park bench in San Diego, alone, and so there's a few layers there. What can you say is the origin of that very specific set of imagery?
Great question.
I had not seen a homeless person until I was in middle school, and we moved up north. We were living in New Jersey at the time, and would go into New York City, and how absolutely shocking it was on my system to see people living on the streets, living in Central Park. And that has had it's had a big impact on me. I can't even go to San Francisco anymore because the homeless situation there is just so it's so obtuse, and it's so big that you can't help one person because there's like 90 people like standing beside them on the sidewalk, and you can't help everyone. So in the times that I've been there, I've had to become immune to it. And I didn't like that feeling of the suffering. And so, yeah, it's like, it's just always stuck with me of this fear that, oh my God. And there's always been from my family and from culture about, success, being successful. And I feel like my generation, like the Gen X generation, like we as women, like we were on, we were like, I feel like a real emerging generation of women, like really laying the stake in the ground of like, I'm not going to be this. I'm not going to be the stereotypical, which is a beautiful place to be a homemaker and a wife and a mother. It's a beautiful place when it's a choice. And I feel like with my generation, we were the ones that had the first choice to be creators, to be money magnets, right? To create our own destinies and to determine our own careers. And so that kind of pressure has just always been with me of I have to be successful because that's what's also expected of me.
Got you. If you could remember how many stories you've heard about people who've lost everything and then found new versions of themselves and built new things, what do you imagine if that did happen to you, if you did lose everything? What do you imagine you might learn?
Well, it's funny. It's that because I actually, I already went through a big seismic, earthquake shift like that 12 years ago. In like the last big recession, I got laid off from my job. I had to go on food stamps. My car was being repossessed. And it was at the time when I was birthing entrepreneurship. I had been part of, the system, the corporate matrix. And when I got laid off from that, I knew that I might, if I went back into the corporate world, I might not, I don't know if I would have the chance again to create the life that I always wanted. So I lost everything during that and rebuilt it. And so there's even part of that that's in my cellular system of memory, of like, whoa, remembering the negative impact. And so I have to constantly like come back into that space of, and you rebuilt, you can do it again. But it's like, God, I don't ever want to have to rebuild again. There's a part of me that's like, I just want to rest. I just want to rest for a little while. So lack it's been a big belief system that I've been navigating through this last year, when I made the choice that something had to die in order for something in order for something to be birthed. I'm in that death process. And so this has been a big seismic belief system that I've had to really root out. And it's still there. It's still there, and it's very uncomfortable.
Can you see that you're not the only one whose financial stability is crumbling?
Yeah, I think everybody that I know is going through some massive transformation. A lot of people that is around money. So yeah, there can be a little bit of comfort in that I'm not in this completely.
Right. Thank you. We can all be poor together. Yep.
Yay.
Yep. Makes it way less painful when you're not alone.
Yeah.
Totally. You guys got any questions? Any thoughts for her?
I have a question.
Yes.
Julie. Hey. It's Chris Valley. You made a comment about your grandparents living through the Great Depression. My grandparents lived through the Great Depression also. And I've been fortunate enough that I've generally had a middle class life, but my entire life I heard my grandparents talk about the struggle it was. So literally my grandfather had to drop out of school in the 6th grade to go pick cotton and chop wood so his younger sibling could have shoes. My other grandmother talked about dragging her children through the field, trying to carry 4 children behind her while they were picking cotton, trying to have enough food on the table. Until the day they died, they talked about how difficult that was. And I heard that my entire life. And I think that that has influenced my fear that the wolf is always at the door and lack is right around the corner. Is that your experience as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The boogeyman.
Yeah.
It's gonna jump out.
Right around the corner.
Yes.
The wolf is outside the door all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that. I resonate with that.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris.
I wanted to zero in on something, if I may. It sounded like the fear that's underneath the fear is the lack of people in your life to help you pick up the pieces if something were to go wrong. So can you elaborate more on that? Because that, to me, sounds like what's really under the surface.
Yeah, thank you for hearing that. It is it is requiring that I work through this armor of ultra independence. Yeah, that it was a beautiful survival skill because I grew up in an abusive household, and that left a really deep impression on me. And we moved so much. So we were moving and changing. I think one time I went to like 5 schools in 4 years. And that was like middle school time frame. So moving states, moving neighborhoods, moving churches, moving schools. There was never a sense of community that I could really root into, coupled with the fact that it was a very abusive household, that I, at a very young age, realized that I had to take care of myself. And so while it has been a beautiful survival skill, it's also one that doesn't work for me anymore. And my family is still it's a difficult family to be in a relationship with. And so I'm pretty really far removed from them, and I have just one daughter, and I'm not in a relationship, so sometimes that oh my God, I don't have anybody. those feelings resurfacing of that lack of community that I had growing up can sometimes feel as if now that's still a reality. And then I have to remember that I'm part of a really beautiful community through the barn, through the relationships that I've been able to develop over the last 25 years here in Charlotte. And I have to very intentionally bring myself back into the remembrance, and then I have to engage myself in community to remember that I am part of, I do belong, because that is, that's a lot of the flavor of where this will go. It's so many layers of it. So many layers.
Well, I might offer to you this suggestion that, the more that you open yourself up to the possibility of like what is out there in terms of people and community, and there are certain times and places and situations where you would be amazed at the altruistic spirit that can be exhibited in people that you wouldn't necessarily expect. There are a lot of fair weather friends, and if you are surrounded by them, obviously they're not necessarily going to step up to the plate. But if you're around the right kinds of people that are very generous and very selfless and stuff, you would be amazed at the level of generosity and support and really putting their lives on the line for you that's out there. So opening yourself up to the possibility and to the trust that those people exist and that they can come through for you when you need them the most. Just because I know, because that happened to me. So just have faith that exists out there, because I'm a living testimony of that.
Thank you for that. I know, and so it is requiring that I step through vulnerability, asking for help. Also, to really be allowing, the art of allowing, of then receiving the help. So over this last, I don't know, it's probably been the last 6 to 9 months that I have this little game that I play with myself, that anytime someone offers help, I have to say yes. I have the opportunity and my boundaries to redefine what that may be. However, there have been so much of me in the past, like, oh, I can do it. I got it. And I might be, carrying 18 boxes and trying to open a door with my foot, and somebody will offer to open the door. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I got it. And it's like that's how independent I have been in the past. So yeah, I hear you. Thank you. It's been a really fun, uncomfortable journey and vulnerability with all of this.
Yeah. Thank you.
Who else has anything?
I have a thought. I understand the defense mechanism of independence. And you mentioned the abusive nature of your family, and there's a certain amount of independence required to survive an abusive family, and it can be very, very uncomfortable, if not terrifying, to trust others, to depend on others when you are used to being independent. And I've witnessed that in my own life as well. So thank you for acknowledging that. Anybody else?
I've got one. Julie, lack is yin, abundance is yang. And I've known some of the other things that you have accomplished and have been influential of, and they've been big and great. So I would like to hear your views of the yang. And
are you asking her about abundance?
Yes.
We're not there yet. we were gonna do lack first, but if you want to get her while we got her.
Exactly.
Okay, got you.
Because there's a whole flip side to what you just shared with us, and I'd love to hear your perspective of where abundance is for you right now, and how has it worked for you in the past, and how have you controlled it or drawn yourself to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. It's a constant coming back into presence and being in the now, because whenever I am in my body and I'm taking up the space and my attention is in the moment that I'm in, I see the beauty of everything around me. I can feel the sweetness. There is nothing lacking. Like, it is just so delicious. I was even earlier today, I was at my friend's and he'd been working on my computer for me, and he's many years older than me, and he loves tech talk, and I don't give a shit about any of that, and it's like it goes right over my head. I don't even want to learn it. That's how much I don't care about it, right? And there's a part of me when I sat down, I was like, oh god, I know he's gonna just drown me in all of whatever. And then I was like, what if I actually just enjoyed it? And then I just sat there and I listened to him, and then it wasn't even about the words of what he was saying. It was just about how much fun he was having, telling me this wisdom. And then it started to be this, what a sweet dad energy I get to experience right now, because I don't really get to experience that often with my own father. And so then I just was in the indwelling of this sweet older man that just wanted to take care of me, and just make sure that my computer was working and that it's not gonna. And so yes, every single time that I just stay in the now, I'm overwhelmed. My breath is taken away. It is everything that I ever want. And so much of my practice, my spiritual practices is, in the taming of the mind. The mind's like a fucking little toddler that just wants to have its own way, and taming the mind. And so when I can, constantly come back into, and I have, you're right, Jason, I've created some cool shit and some things that have been really successful. And
Bravo.
thank you for recognizing that. And I've created lots of jobs, and I've helped to with other entrepreneurs. I've created other entrepreneurs that are in their own businesses and making their own money and doing all their fun stuff. And so then I'll be like, you're just a little whiny baby right now, Julie. It's so much. It is so much. And so that's why then when I know that this fear that comes up, it's we're still here. We're still dancing. Okay. All right. Well, what is it you want me to know? Tell me what you want me to learn. Let's dance, and so I'm really in this space of creation, doing my best to lean into to befriend the yin, so that it becomes then the yang becomes even more abundant, right? The more that I let myself feel the yin, but in a way that it brings compassion to it, and in a way that really is seeking the message of what it's trying to tell me, instead of letting the fear grip and pull me into freeze state. Then it's whoa, all of a sudden the abundance just becomes so much bigger, and I see all of it. My dog can look at me and I'm like, oh my god, life is perfect. It's everything is perfect as it should be. So that's really the abundance is always in the now.
I love it.
What
Thank
a story
you.
arc.
Good call.
Oh, Holly's got one
Yeah.
for you.
Do you ever feel like it's hard to enjoy all of your abundance because of that fear that pops up? Because I can relate to that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I
totally enjoy it because the fear of losing it is looming.
What I've noticed is that it's in the creation, when I'm in creation phase, is when it's so magnified, and then when the creation has been birthed, then it's oh god, I love it. Are you fucking kidding? Are you serious? I listened, and I answered the call, and holy shit, that was so hard, and I just got dragged through the mud over broken glass, and I would do it all again, because look how fucking beautiful this is. Wow. So yeah, so it's always after the birthing. And so this time what I am desiring and have been able to do to a large extent is when the fear comes up and being in the space of the unknown, how can I keep dancing? Like how can I find the joy so I am enjoying the birthing of the creation, as opposed to not enjoying it until it's been birthed,
Mm-hmm.
Once it's birthed, I have no problem. I'm just like, whoa, this is fabulous. But it's always when it's not in form yet. It's something I'm carrying in my womb and in my heart that only I can see this, it's like, and then it's like, but I'm trying. I'm really, I've been doing a lot of work around just allowing myself to love it, even though I can't see it yet.
Thank you so much, dear. Thank you. Great job. Can we have a round for her? Thank you. Yep. All right, who's next? Black, who's got something to share? Thank you, sir. All right, Brian. Thank you, brother, for being here. Select your blindfold.
I wanted to go pretty early so I can get the blue one before anybody else.
Color coordinated.
All right. Start out with anything you got to share with us about lack. And your blindfold is very complimentary to your headband.
I grew up middle class, and I was raised to believe, or I asked my dad one day, I asked him, I said, what does it take to be rich and have a lot of money? And he said, work hard in school, go to college and get a good job, get a good position, and make money, work for somebody else. And that's what everybody did. My peers did that. I grew up in Massachusetts. There's a lot of colleges in Massachusetts. Education is an industry there. So my brothers and sisters all went to school. My peers, my friends, they all went to college. They went through the system, the factory, the sausage grinder, whatever you want to call it. And I just wasn't really interested in school or any of the subjects. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And of course I failed at it. I wasn't good at it. And I just kept trying and failing and over again. And over the years, I never graduated college. I had several jobs in good management positions, but, I was always comparing myself to my family. They were all educated. My peers, my friends, they all had good jobs, good positions, and money, cars, whatever they say you need to be happy. I was chasing and I didn't have it, and I was comparing myself to other people and what they had. Didn't really look at what I had, and it took me a long time to figure out that I was chasing the wrong dreams, and so that's my story. I guess it's a short one, but I've found that that's not the case, and it's all about finding what you like doing, and yeah, that's all I have really.
Can you tell me or tell us your experience of lack in other dimensions besides money? Like, was there a lack of attention or love or anything like that?
Not really growing up. I grew up in a physically abusive home at a very young age, and when the physical abuse stopped, it was emotional abuse. So there was always a tension, but I never felt like I deserved, because I didn't go to school and have those, I didn't work for a big corporation. I didn't have a fancy title and a fancy car. I felt like it wasn't meant for me. I just didn't deserve I didn't deserve the love or the admiration. And there goes that independence from, being in that abusive environment, learning how to do things on my own and not accepting help and feeling like I didn't deserve it.
Ryan, can you give us one very specific story of your most profound experience of lack?
It was just, I never felt like I lacked. As a child, we never needed anything. I never wanted anything. You always felt like there was more, and I always did compare myself to people that did have more, according to what society says you need. It was more when I was on my own, and then, just fighting and struggling to pay the bills. It's always been a struggle. It's always been a fight. I've always had that feeling of lack up until about maybe a couple of years ago. I've matured to the point where I realized I was chasing the wrong dream and I was after the wrong things. And I realized that, that money and all that isn't going to buy happiness. The happiness comes from here. So I was really unhappy, and that's where I felt the lack. I just didn't have that happiness. I didn't have the love. I didn't allow myself to have that. But I'm figuring it out slowly, and still figuring it out as I go.
Amen. I love that. Do you know where you lost that love? Was it the abuse? Was it the lack? Like, what? Do you know where that
happened? It was just ingrained in me that I didn't feel like I deserved it. I didn't deserve a good life. That this was my destiny, to always be struggling, living paycheck to paycheck.
Was that a generational pass down?
I believe so. I think a lot of, I don't think I'm unique in that. And like other people of my age, our grandparents went through the Great Depression. So we were always taught never to waste food, never to waste anything. Hold on to everything you have, every dollar, clutch on to everything, which isn't a very good relation. Well, I don't believe it's a very good relationship to have with money or your possessions. It should be kind of like a flow, Abundance means not needing or having what you need at the time.
What would you say is the most valuable learning experience that you've gathered from lack?
I've learned to look more at what you do have instead of looking at what you and trying to compare yourself to other people, to turn inward instead of watching other people, seeing what they have, take inventory of what we have, and what you have, and it really is a lot more than you think. And I have love in my life. I have a lot. So I do feel like I have abundance.
And is there a tangible moment or lesson that you recall where you shifted into that experience of abundance?
It's been pretty recently, just on my spiritual path, just getting into meditation and being more mindful, and just keeping my eyes open and my heart open, and paying attention to what is going on.
What do you hope or anticipate abundance will bring to you next?
At this point, I'm just going to put my faith in the universe and do me. just be. And I have faith that whatever it is, it's going to bring abundance and good things.
Yeah, that's the spirit of it.
You guys got any thoughts, questions?
I have a question. So you mentioned twice about coming to realization that you were not on your path. Can you maybe expand a little more about what that awakening was? Like, what a wake up call for you to be like, this is not me?
It wasn't a specific moment or like an aha moment. It was just kind of realizing that my parents and everybody else around me was full of shit. Society and everybody that told me I had to go into this system and do this and go to college and work for a corporation and work for a good company. I realized that you don't have to do that to be happy or to make a career or to make a living. I realized that you just have to do what you like doing and what you do best.
That's it. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good stuff,
Great
Brian.
work.
Thank you.
Great work. Who's next?
I'll just drop it on the floor over there.
Who's next? Somebody's got something about black for sure. Everybody else has been happy their whole life. You want to share something, Jay?
Lack. I grew up with lack. I grew up with my mother and my brother in our single parent, 2-child household on food stamps with housing support. And I felt that. I knew that other kids around me had like their own, like lived in a house instead of a little apartment, and their mom and dad drove a car, and we walked our asses off, speed walking too. Like, we had some places to go and we were going to get there. And at the time, I can see myself as that just being the way that life is. And really just feeling the comparison. Yeah, there is always the comparison, because we have to be able to see the flip side of what we're experiencing in order to know the severity of what we're experiencing. So my mom got a job at the window factory when I was in mid to late elementary school, and things turned around. It was Anderson Window Factory in Bayport, Minnesota, where my mom worked, and she was a very dedicated employee, and like hardly ever missed a day of work, and just went in all the time, whenever she could, the regular work schedule, and was very dedicated, and gradually we accumulated finance. We accumulated some material possessions and some finances, and eventually bought a house. Mom bought a house, and I had that feeling. I knew that it was a major step. I knew that it was like a new level of perspective, and I felt like now at that point that we were middle class. And that's just the financial perspective of lack, and then transitioning to mediocre abundance, moderate abundance. The household that we lived in was, it felt full of love, but also upon retrospect, dysfunction. So psychological, physical turmoil, that I could feel being passed down from me, from my mother, passed down to her from her parents, and as the chain goes. I'm realizing that now, and I love to think of that perspective and that dichotomy. And so work ethic was instilled at a young age, that you just go to work, even if you're like sort of kind of sick, you still just go to work. You just figure it out. And I remember some other feelings of lack when I was in junior high, and I was hanging out with some of my friends, and I had cutoff jean shorts. I was wearing cutoff jean shorts rather than like store-bought shorts that were actually designed to be shorts from purchase.
Shorts,
I guess. No, shorts. No, they were, real shorts. But something that was like hemmed at the bottom of the leg, or, at the bottom of the short leg, and that looked like it was supposed to be. And they were like, I got made fun of for wearing the cutoff jean shorts when my other friends that I knew had parents that were of a higher financial standard. And I, like, even just talking about it and thinking about it now, I can realize what kind of an effect that had on me to have been made fun of for that situation. And so I feel I feel what lack is, and I see it now, and I'm very acutely aware of it, in seeing other people experience financial difficulties, psychological turmoil, lack on a spiritual essence, a spiritual layer. All that I'm aware now of all of the degrees, the variations of lack, and flipping that on its edge in understanding the abundance that can be driven from it, or that can be inspired by it. Within the perspective of looking at lack, I realize that I could have continued along that particular path, and been subject to just a life of sort of mediocrity, or not really striving for too much and just being sort of kind of okay with everything going on, and what I've accumulated, or the spiritual essence that I was at then compared to now, and then realize that it is a state of being. It like I can flip my mind into achieving abundance. And I have a very interesting story of the achievement of abundance. Many years ago, I had been studying a lot of self-improvement courses, classes, audiobooks, like things like Think and Grow Rich. And I really dove deep into it. Like, I literally listened to the audiobook Think and Grow Rich maybe 15 times. And one time I was really low on money. Well, I mean, many times I've been very low on money, but this one particular time I was low on money. I was really sitting there thinking, I need money. I have to draw money to me. But I didn't have any other way of particularly doing it at the time. I didn't have like another job that I was going to go off and just add extra hours to or anything like that. But I just thought that I need to bring money to me. And literally the next fucking day, a $2,500 credit card showed up in the mail for me that I didn't apply for. I'd never even filled out any application for it. It just showed up. And I was like, it's a state of mind. It's a state of being. I just got to think this stuff into existence, and then it comes. I just got to start. That's the first part. And I was very fortunate for having received that $2,500 infusion at the time that I did. But then beyond the thinking, the first step of thinking it into existence is the physical steps to move in the direction of the manifestation of abundance. So what that looks like for me today is getting up in the morning and doing the things that I need to do for that day. And thinking about the bigger things that I want to bring into existence at some point in the relatively near future. And then doing the things that day, that week, those months that then start to bring those future manifestations into existence.
You mentioned, sorry, were you done?
I'm good, yeah.
You mentioned emotional dysfunction in your family. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looked like?
A very erratic, emotional, angry mother who was dealing with 2 young children on her own with very little help or support from anyone else, with wild emotional fluctuations and violence, and being the recipient of the violence. And sometimes the violence was labeled as just regular everyday punishment back in the 70s. Kid does something wrong, whip his ass. Kid says something wrong, smack them across the fucking face. Kids having a normal conversation, mother driving through a stop sign because she's in a fucking daze, not knowing what's really going on, and then blaming the drive-through on the stop sign on me sitting in the seat, whacked across the face. So that's from my family, and then my cousins and aunts and uncles experienced other things, similar other. So it was an environment of emotional, psychological dysfunction and violence.
And how did that affect you?
It made me detest violence. Well, there was a transition. First of all, I enjoyed violence because I was accustomed to it, and I fed off of violence in my younger years, and I was the kind of kid that would hang out with the other kids, with my other friends, and we'd like to go get into fights. And I remember fucking up a kid's face really hard one time and feeling very, very, very bad about it. Like, I don't know if he went to the hospital, but I felt like he should have. And then having done that, also then feeling fear for retaliation from his bigger brother. And feeling like, oh shit, this could come any fucking minute now.
Did it?
It never did. Not in that case. No. But and then going, so then having a taste of violence and an environment of violence that I was very accustomed to and enjoyed and fed off of the adrenaline rush of it. And then flip side, transformation, learning about spirituality and having more compassion for people and feeling what it feels like to be in pain. And now detesting violence and wanting to spread as much love and positive energy and anything dealing with that and inspiration to as many people now as I can.
I know few people as annoyed by violence as Jay. Like he didn't want the kids to bring like squirt guns to an event at the barn.
Yeah, and because I had the kind of father. Now I only had my father in my life for like 1 or 2 years, but on my very first birthday, his present to me as a 1-year-old child was a .22 pistol.
For a 1-year-old?
Yes, sir.
Damn.
And I'm seeing that picture in my head right now, and I'm sitting there holding a .22 pistol as a 1-year-old kid, pretending to fire at people.
That's what you call generational trauma right there. And,
Yes.
And your dad was military, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's like a pacifier.
Yes. And so I feel and I know and I understand that when you're just around violence, when you're around weapons, guns, whatever the case may be, you are just more apt to use them.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the pure facts. And I mean, I think we're getting off the lack abundance kind of. So I got I got a lot of layers here, peeps. I mean, we got to like hone in though.
You guys got other
where
questions,
we at?
thoughts? Anybody? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Jason, you just mentioned something about growing up around parents, and they use corporal punishment and I've always. First of all, you're from Minnesota. I thought this was a Southern Baptist, South Carolina, spare the rod, spoil the child thing. You just ruined the idea for me.
Well, my violence wasn't inflicted with any religious morality.
Okay. Well, so I was going to ask.
Does that make it better or worse? I'm not sure.
It's just a different flavor.
In retrospect, as an adult, how often were you really being punished because you did something wrong, or your mom or your dad was just having a really bad day and they took it out on you?
So my dad wasn't around after I was like 1 or 2. So it was just my mom. And yeah, okay, I became a rebellious kid. Maybe you'd know. And I'd love to push my mom's buttons. I'd love to control her and make her flip. It was my sport. It was my fun to watch her flip, and then even be acceptant of the violence I'd received from it, because it brought me some humor to watch her flip. And then so as a younger kid, she had this belt that she would whip our asses with, me and my brother. And it was so well used, like there was a crease where it was folded and it would never uncrease again. And so she would use that liberally on my ass until one day, like, I just started laughing at her. I was still in elementary school, and I would just take it and then turn it back on her and laugh at her until she would freak out more, and then she couldn't. And I was like, "You can't do anything to me. You can't hurt me anymore."
I remember that feeling.
So, I mean, there is the perspective of making me tough, which in that case, in that time period, it was advantageous to be tough.
You seem to ask for a lot of the punishment.
What do you mean?
I said, and you seemed to ask for a lot of the punishment, like you deserved the punishment because you were pushing the boundaries, right?
Well, yeah. So the punishment then just became a game that I would use to torment my mother with.
To get attention, maybe?
Well, there's definitely an attention-seeking thrill, and yes, I'm sometimes a little bit of an attention whore.
Not you. No.
No way.
But it's very important to understand that no attention is more detrimental to a psyche than abuse. No attention at all, and that's why children act up, is because they would rather be punished than have no attention.
Well, I think in my case, I would have rather just had the few minutes of laughter, knowing that, okay, punishment's coming after that, but at least I had this laughter. And that was good enough for me.
That's the trickster.
Yeah, I was the trickster. Yeah.
Anybody else?
I've got a question. Would you say maybe pushing the boundaries and making your mother flip would be maybe your way to control part of your life and being able to laugh for that one moment?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, in pushing somebody's buttons and watching them go off the deep end became a way of me just laughing at the control that I had over them, watching them flip.
And I just wanted to add, the parents of our generation they loved us and they tried their best, but the more I talk to people my age, they were all pretty horrible fucking parents. They did their best, but they were awful.
Yeah. So, and that's how it was just growing up. So, our standards of parenting have come quite a bit further in the from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and up through today. Like I flat out tell my mom now, I know I love you, and I know that you were doing the best raising me and my brother that you could, but there are so many different ways that that I have learned the opposite of the way that you treated us that I would do with my future children.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We all had terrible parents, but most of them were treated like cattle. Like they were farm animals. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we got to really put it in perspective. Like every generation, we try to do it a little bit better. And that's where we get into that abundance, is seeing that we learn from our mistakes. We learn from our mistakes. Anybody else got something for Jay?
Yeah, I have a question. So you said that your dad wasn't around when you were growing up. Did he ever come back into your life as you've been an adult?
He periodically, every like 4 or 5 years, he would show up as we were kids. But since I've moved to North Carolina in 2001, and my dad was living in Denver, North Carolina, very close, well, only about 45 minutes from here, we had developed an awesome father-son relationship. And we've continued to nurture that since 2001. And I know that me coming into his life has massively changed a lot of the perspectives that he had. Like he's considered to be an educated redneck. Southern guy. He did go to college. He was a Vietnam vet and is still very proud of that. And grew up kind of like a progressive conservative. Like he was the most liberal of conservatives. In other words, he still loved guns and getting drunk and fucking a bunch of women and talking about being racist or misogynistic. But it was less than before. And now, yes, he's quite a bit more elevated now than ever before in his life, and we've had so many deep conversations, and I've learned a lot about his upbringing and his like the massive shit that he had to go through, and I feel very fortunate now for having this time together with my dad.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Anybody else? Anything to share from lack? Anything to share from abundance? Anybody? Let me see what time it is. 8:46. Okay, we can. Oh yeah, very good. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate you.
So, I want to wrap it up in a way we never have before. I would like to do a conversational town hall to talk about this economy they say is so great, and where we're all going and where we think it's gonna go, what the resolution is gonna be, because there's a lot of fear right now. There's a lot of fear right now, and I don't know about y'all, but I feel like the media is gaslighting us. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the media is saying like everything is great and everything is beautiful, and everybody I know has either already lost their job or they're afraid of it. Everybody I know is looking for work and can't find any. I keep seeing videos of people. This one woman's she's a recruiter and she got laid off in Thanksgiving. and she hadn't had a job since. And who would know how to find one besides a recruiter, right? And then I saw one with a woman who said, how come I've run restaurants before and now I can't get a job hosting, you know? So I wanted to just kind of open the floor to have any thoughts, any questions, to let us talk about what you see happening here, because the story I hear from the media isn't what I see on the ground. So anybody, any thoughts, any questions?
Sure. So, speaking on that, right? I feel like it's more apparent now that a lot of us want to take the boss role and we're tired of working for somebody else. So I feel that also with technology now, those people who are in the boss roles have different tools to look up to. So then we have less opportunities for certain people, certain skills, I mean, we can look at like people who do like evidence research and things like that. I mean, AI is taking those jobs now.
Mm-hmm.
People who hosting right now, what's the first thing that you see at the host stand? It's a computer screen where you punch in your order, for pickup.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel like the media does do a job of giving us some information that we don't really need. And then I feel sometimes too, the abundance of bad press is also to blame for our constant mind shifts on how we see the world. But as an entrepreneur, I feel like there's always opportunity out there of whatever kind. I mean, there are a lot of people that also are immigrants that come to this country and all around the world that just find means where other people, and again, I don't shame those people, but sit at the corner and beg, but they're in the same roles when they're on the street, I think putting a little bit of faith and a little bit of giving yourself a little bit of time to learn a skill of any type can overcome any challenge that they put out there for us.
Amen. Thank you for the abundance in that reflection, because as I see the whole system crumbling to the ground, the point isn't poor us. The point isn't poor capitalism. I'm not going to miss monopoly. The point is, what do we do now? What's the next version? How do we find new ways of exchanging value? You know what I mean? Like, that's the invitation.
It's a time to reinvent.
Thank you. And I love Jay mentioning Think and Grow Rich, because that book changed my life too. And it's the first thing that ever showed me I create value. The world doesn't create value for me. I create value. And I'd never seen that before. So I'm not really concerned with, oh my God, everything's dying. Like, duh. I'm really concerned with, where do we go from here? What is the next version of economy? What is the next version of work? Because money's not going anywhere, y'all, but the jobs aren't coming back, the jobs aren't coming back. And so it's a time of like, where do we go from here? What do we do? How are we going to play this game now? And I don't know about y'all, but I'm really excited to find new games. Does anybody have any ideas about what the future might look like?
Well, I think I think, from my observation, God, I mean, COVID was, it had so many blessings wrapped up inside of all the calculated, intentional fucktardery of all of that psyop, right? Like, and so it gave permission to so many people to get out of the, the funnel, our American societal funnel: go to school, go to college, get a job, die, right? And if you don't take that track, then you're on like the prison track. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's some institution, like, and so people are realizing, like, the only reason why we have these big institutions is because we as humans continue to work there and support them. So whether it's through a choice of leaving or through layoff, like, people, I feel like, more than I've ever seen in my entire life, given themselves permission to tap into like what really makes me happy. Joseph Campbell talks about following your bliss, which means also too I've heard it as follow your blisters, because you know you're really gonna then start to walk your own path, and you get out of the path of what society has dictated as being the path, and in that space, like as humans start to move into uncovering what their gifts are, that creates its own sovereign economy. So what do we need to really worry about some macro economy, because we're creating our own sovereignty, and within that then the economy creates itself. That's how I see it. And so no, I mean, I don't think the corporations and the banks and all the big, hospital institutions and the university institutions, I don't think they're going to go away necessarily in our lifetime, but I think that we're building the new as we're watching these structures crumble, but they're going to take time to crumble, and yet we get to be outside of that, being little magicians and manifestors and dancing and playing, and we're building the new earth right now. It's already happening.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. I love it.
And I don't watch the news. Like, I haven't had a TV in over 20 years. I'll tap into Instagram a couple times a week, but I really keep it deleted off my phone. And I can tell you, I don't even have to watch all this shit, and the energy is real. Like, just what I'm experiencing in my own life, and just the energy that is out there. And so I don't need all the waves of the fucked up media shit and all the paid influencers, like, just that are profusely, like, spitting out, psyop types of information to try to get me to believe some narrative that's not even relative or true. So I just do my best to, like, keep it out of my field as much as I can, because it's nonsensical. Even though now I realize, like, the more that I detach myself from technology and the AI augmented reality that so many people are swimming in, like, the weirder I become to people, because I'm becoming less normal. You know what I mean? But it's like, I don't even care. I don't care, because it is. It's just, it's a lot of intended negative garbage, and that keeps us in a density that, separates us from our intuitive, creative, passionate desires. And so I don't want any of that, So anyway,
Amen. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Done a little bit of thinking about that.
We're here to share, honey. Thank you. Anybody else got a thought about the economy, jobs?
Ollie's got one.
I think about, Abraham Hicks, and how she says there is only abundance. There really isn't any lack. And so no matter how the world changes, if we tap into our power and we trust, I think that we will always be abundant and taken care of. We'll always have what we need. Like, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know we don't have to have lack, because the economy is changing.
Amen.
It's an illusion.
Yeah.
It's all fake.
Chris had something. Or wait, were you finished?
Yeah, I just said I think the media peddles lack.
Well, they want you to be afraid.
Yeah.
They do.
They're fear mongers.
Yep.
Fear sells more.
That's how society controls, is through fear. And it's done it the entire time. It's always God or the people that live over there or the oppressors. There's always fear, because fear allows you to control people. They'll listen to you.
And you never know what kind of inspired thought will come into your head, because you ask the universe for something that could then lead to all this abundance for you. I think the universe can always work around whatever. I just think we're more powerful than them.
Exactly. Chris, buddy, what'd you have?
Thank you. I was going to say, unfortunately, because I work in banking and I have these computer screens in front of my face all the time, screaming financial information at me, it's hard for me to tune it out. And but to that point about what we can do about it, I don't think even some of the more recent challenges like COVID or even this recent inflation. I mean, I was commenting with Moni as we came in today. I mean, we all live in the United States. Average family income has been going down since the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't new. And but so to that point about what we can do about it, well, when I was younger, people used to call me a cheap SOB. Today, I call myself a minimalist because things do not bring us happiness. So don't buy things because that keeps you trapped on the rat race. And so purge yourself of unnecessary things. If it does not spark joy, purge it from your life. So there's that, and also about what we can do about it. I'm a huge advocate of buy local. Do business with people you know. Try to support small businesses. Avoid chain stores. Unfortunately, I have to have groceries. I do buy groceries at Walmart, but that's about the only thing I go to Walmart for. And so be a minimalist. And when you have to have things, go buy from somebody you know. And because when you support your own community, the money gets paid back into your own community. Versus when I have to go to Walmart, that goes to the Walton family. And it's different, yeah.
Facebook Marketplace.
Well, I know, yeah.
Brian's got something.
I just wanted to add to that. We live in a consumer society where we're brainwashed into thinking that we need so much more than we actually do.
Yeah,
And
I know.
I met a man this week. He was like, he was 75 years old. He said, I drive a 2013 Toyota Corolla. It has over 200,000 miles on it. And I said, fucking ain't right, man. Who gives a shit what kind of car you drive? At the end of the day, we're all going to end up in the same fucking place. Everybody dies.
Can't take it with you. Can't take it with you.
I drive a 20-year-old Ford, and I ain't never getting rid of that thing.
Drive it till the wheels fall.
All right, but let me ask you then, if you were to suddenly come into a large chunk of money, if abundance were just to bless you and the universe said, bam, you got $5 million right now, would you still drive the same car? Or what else would you do with it?
I have two 2013
For real though, let me ask, everybody for real, what would you do with a large windfall of money?
If we're minimalists, if we're saying we're minimalists, what would you do?
So what would you do with it? That's what I'm saying.
Land has to be one automatically.
Land has for a long time been the safest investment, and there are people getting their shit handed to them right now with land. That doesn't mean it's not good still in the long term, but the scope of our system crumbling, I don't think anybody really knows the scope of it. And I don't know if y'all saw that movie Obama did on Netflix called Leave the World Behind, but I would invite you to watch it because to me, when I watched that, it felt like the pamphlet in the airplane that tells you what to do when the plane goes down, that warns you about what you need to know. That's what that movie felt like to me. And it was realer than I've ever seen in a entertainment film before. And next month there's a film coming out called Civil War, and they're seeding our minds. They're seeding our minds to be prepared. And I don't necessarily think that the United States is going to end soon, but I know it's going to end. And when it does, whatever you think you own is now up for grabs. You know what I'm saying? Like ownership is a human creation. It's a human construct. And I don't say that to instill fear. I say that because the version of reality that we're going to now, that we're tasked with creating, is not going to be about ownership. It's not going to be about control. And I have no idea what that looks like, but they were talking about it 30 years ago in Star Trek. You know what I'm saying? Like, they saw that money is not going to control our minds forever. Like, there's a point where we're just going to be over that.
Go ahead. I've got a lot of thoughts on that too. And just to start with, there's continuous, perpetual cycles in the economy and in society that bring us in. They bring us up, they bring us down. It brings us up, it brings us down. This has happened since the dawn of humanity. And we're just in another cycle. There's always going to be another cycle. And there's always going to be something crashing and falling apart so that it can be completely destroyed and then create the fertile ground for then something else new to grow on.
Like a forest fire.
Exactly.
Rise and fall.
Exactly. So AI is going to be a very real component in all of our lives.
It is.
And humanity will move away from these 40-hour work weeks or even 40 plus hours. Some people are working 60, 70 hours a week, busting their ass to try to make the American dream in this capitalistic life system. That will change. There will come a time when AI replaces most of human work, and we're going to have massive amounts of leisure time. In which
I love how he talks about it like AI is going to take over everything, and we're all going to be sipping martinis at the pool. That's how y'all. I'm sorry though. Go ahead.
Oh, margaritas, bro.
Margaritas. Right, like Wall-E, exactly. We're all gonna have flat screens floating in front of our faces.
Yeah. So, and the way, and a part of the way that we create an abundance global lifestyle is by thinking and talking about it right now in these exact terms.
Amen. Figuring out what the next game is going to look like. Figuring it out.
I know what I would do with that 5 million or whatever.
What's that?
Kind of circling all this together, which is that because the world is always a chaotic place, civilizations rise and fall all the time. New technologies pave the way for good things and bad things at the same time. For me, besides paying off debt and stuff like that, what I would do with that money is just probably find a nice piece of land, someplace that's like a blank slate, like in the Nevada or someplace where it's easy to, it's like relatively inexpensive land where it's
Slab Town.
Yeah, it's relatively inexpensive. You could build. I would want to build a dream house that was like a, sacred place, and me and my family, whatever that would happen to be, that's where we would live, and we could have our own little paradise on earth, away from all the nonsense around us, because ultimately that's what matters, is just that, the people that you really care about, and you form your little space in the world, and, can't be touched by other people, hopefully.
I could see you living in an Earthship.
Yeah, I like to think of it as more, what I see in my head is like some kind of really, really special, quasi-cathedral looking place,
Thank you for that, Dave. Let me just go back. I wanted to go back to what the future also looks like, and what the future of an abundance on the planet looks like, and that is that regular people will have to work far less than what they do right now. We'll have far more time to create things, far more time to appreciate and create art and other things that will help humanity become better and evolve itself. Universal basic income is already getting a lot of popular talk, whereas that is a set of money that is delivered to everybody on the planet.
Because they know there's not many jobs, so they have to give you money.
Exactly. Look, it's going to be a short time until vehicles are self-driving. There is, I think, 11 million driver positions in just America alone. So when the vehicle will drive itself, that is no more paid jobs for 11 million people. And that's that's closer than what you think it is.
Well, it's already happening all across the tech sector.
Right.
It's all already happening in all kinds of
all of
industries.
This presupposes, though, that this presupposes that people care about keeping other people alive. You know, 'cause for all we know, it could just be millions of people that just can't survive. You know, and they just die off.
So that's the lack mentality.
That's one timeline. That's not the one I chose.
That is the lack.
That's not the one I chose.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
So, Jason, I wish I shared your optimism because I think Terminator is a lot more likely.
I believed that for a long time too, Chris. I believed that for a long time too.
Thank you, Chris. That is a lack fear-based mentality.
Is. It probably is, yeah.
And I like how you said that's not the timeline you choose.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yes,
we
ma'am.
Can choose which timeline.
Yes, there's an infinite number, and we all get to experience whatever we need to.
Yeah.
And
I'm not saying that your version isn't going to happen.
Choose that.
Right.
I'm not on that one.
Right. Yeah, I'm not on that timeline.
I just
That's
think
part
that's
of the
not
old,
life.
like the lack mentality.
Well,
That's part of the old.
That's why I choose. That's why I choose my little paradise away from all that stuff. You know, 'cause it's like either way, I'm gonna be happy with what I, want for myself.
All right, everybody, let's wrap it up real quick with a small little thought that I want to offer for everybody interested in what the new world is going to look like. And I would like to tell you 2 brief stories of massive wealth that were created in the middle of terrible economies. One was a girl that decided she wanted to hold people. And so she decided to make an offer to be a professional cuddler. And she put an ad on Craigslist. And the next day she had 600 requests. And she started doing it, and she did really well, and she honored it and created a safe structure. And she got so busy she had to hire other people to hug other people so she could deal with more. She ended up writing a book called Touch, and she franchised her professional cuddling business, and she's a millionaire now.
There you go.
And that started during the last recession. And then another one that really jumped out to me was a geeky girl that launched a Kickstarter because she liked playing with, what do you call that plastic shit you pour on everything, Jay? Resin?
Resin.
She liked playing with resin. And she did a Kickstarter to make custom dice for Dungeons and Dragons players, y'all. And she asked for $50,000, and this bitch got $15 million.
Yeah.
$15 million to make some plastic dice for some geeks. This is what's possible, y'all. And if you've never read Think and Grow Rich, I would invite you to read it, if for no reason other than it's got example after example after example like that of people that built empires out of nothing but a fucking idea. And that is the possibility of our old monopoly world burning to the ground. And you got to remember, we didn't want that shit. Everybody was complaining about their jobs 3-4 years ago. You didn't want it. You didn't want it. And we went home, and now I don't want to go to work. I don't want to go to work. And then you get surprised that work doesn't need you anymore, right? We asked for this shit, y'all. And so let's start looking to what can we do with it, because that's the invitation, is not to lament what we've lost, but to figure out the new shit that we get to build. So thank you all so much. Thank you. Jason, you need to wrap up in a little thingy thing and everything.
Yeah, let's first of all have a big round of hippie of applause for all of us.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I would love to invite you to come up and scan any of these QR codes. Your donations tonight go to the facilitators of the evening, as well as Big Love Yoga Barn, which is in the midst of a massive transformation into a new location. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, so we need a bunch of money, and we appreciate any donations that you can come on up and support with. That goes right back to the facilitators, and the community being Big Love Yoga Barn, and we get to do more of this stuff.
Thank
And this
you for
is
the abundance.
And
Yes,
this is the kind of
exactly.
stuff that is changing the world. This is the kind of stuff that is elevating our spirits and bringing more abundance to each of us and all of us and the entire planet right now. So I love y'all.
Thank you. No rush to leave. Hang out. We can keep talking about how fucked up the world is.
We still got a bunch of food out there. We'll be up. We'll be hanging out here for a while. So I mean, we can continue this this little jam for a good bit.
Thank you all so much.
Is there a donation box?
Right there.
Oh,
if you got
you
cash,
just got paper
you can
money.
lay
That's
there.
fine
Thank
too.
you.
That's
old,
good.
old school.
Oh, yeah.
Old school. Thank you, honey. I really appreciated your